Oh, hey everybody, you came at the perfect time. Look what I have. Donuts. Beautiful, beautiful donuts. As you can see, donuts put a big grin on my face. And you know why? 'Cause they're so yummy. I just love donuts. It reminds me of when I was a little girl. My family every summer would take a beach trip, and one of the days while they were there, we would get in the car and we would go to the local donut shop. It was one of those that you could see them make the donuts, you could see them cook the donuts, you could see them put the glaze on the donuts, and then they would bring them out and put them on the counter. Oh, they smelled so good. And then the hard part came. I had to pick out one of the most wonderful donuts, and only one. I stood there and stood there and stood there. And finally, I picked the one I want, and I couldn't wait to sink my teeth into it. Oh, my mouth is watering right now just thinking about it. I can't wait. That is a really good donut. Hey, do you want a bite? How about this one? Wow, that is a pretty good bite. Good job. You may be wondering what donuts have to do with art. Well, I'm glad you asked. I want to tell you today about an artist by the name of Wayne Tebow. The way it's spelled and the way you say it are very different. But it's not pronounced the way it looks here. It's pronounced Tebow. Wayne Tebow was born in 1920 in Mesa, Arizona. He only lived there for a few months before his mom and dad moved to California. He was a super great little kid, and like most children, he loved to draw, especially cartoons. When he was a teenager, something bad kind of happened. He broke his back while playing football. Most people would be pretty down about that, but when I hear Mr. Tebow talk about it, he said it wasn't all that terrible. He had to lay in bed a lot while he healed, but while he lay in bed, he would draw, especially cartoons. And because he did that, he got better and better. After high school, he got a job working for the Walt Disney Studios. He worked for an animator, and an animator would draw the picture of Goofy or Pinocchio or Dumbo or Mickey Mouse, and he would decide where Pinocchio would start and where Pinocchio would end. But then they hired Wayne to be an in-betweener. That means that he drew all the little pictures in between where Pinocchio was starting and where he was ending to make Pinocchio look like he was walking. He learned a lot from that job. But about the time he was just getting started with it, World War II began. And Wayne Tebow joined the Air Force. He decided that he wanted to be a pilot. And while he was on base getting his training, he happened to be passing by an office one day, and he saw some other soldiers in there, and they were drawing. He wondered if that was just a hobby or if that was actually their job. He stuck his head in the door, and he said, "Guys, what are you doing drawing?" And they said, "Oh, this is our job." He said, "You mean for the Air Force? This is what they have you doing, drawing?" They said, "Yeah." "Can you draw?" He said, "Well, yeah, I can draw." They said, "Let us see what you can do." And so Wayne drew Mickey Mouse because he was very familiar with Walt Disney's Mickey Mouse. The soldiers saw that he was great and they were needing more artists, so he got the job. They put him in the Special Services Department, and there he would edit film for training, he would take photographs, and he even drew a little cartoon that was put into the military magazine, a comic strip by the name of Alec. After the war, Wayne Tebow continued his commercial art as an art director for Rexall Drug Company, where he oversaw the layout and design of the company's magazine, and he created another comic called Furbus. At 30 years old, Wayne decided that he'd go back to school, and so he enrolled in San Jose State, and then he transferred to Sacramento State, where he got a BA and a master's in studio art and in art education. This opened the door for Tebow to teach. He enjoyed teaching the students, and the students really seemed to enjoy him. He even had his first exhibit there at the Crocker Art Gallery. You see, they would host a student exhibition, and they asked Wayne if he would like to show some of his pieces. After a few years, he decided to take a leave of absence from teaching and from school, and he took a trip to New York. You see, there was this new art style going on, and he wanted to see if it kind of fit into his art style. This new style of art was called abstract expressionism. Abstract art is a painting or a sculpture that you can't quite tell what it is, and he tried painting this way, as you can see here. But this type of art just didn't feel right to him. He liked more detail. He painted this picture that he called Beach Boys. He painted it with probably a little too many details on it, because abstract art isn't supposed to show any details. And so he got his paint and he kind of scribbled and scrunched some paint onto the canvas to try to make it a little more abstract. It ends up being a nice painting, but it still isn't what Tebow wanted to do. One of his dear friends suggested that Wayne Tebow just paint what he liked, things that he had experience with, things that meant something to him. And so Wayne went back to his studio, and he thought, I'll just get back to basics. So on his canvas, he began to paint some ovals. And then on the ovals, he began to paint some triangles. And all of a sudden, there were these pies. He put the paint on extra thick. It almost was like frosting or meringue, like he was decorating real pies with his paint. This painting makes me want to take a big bite. They look so yummy. He painted more pies. Then cakes, big cakes, little cakes, slice cakes, and then donuts. Then he put all of them in a case, just like I saw when I was growing up. He thought people wouldn't take him seriously painting these things. But he connected with this type of art. It felt interesting and comfortable to him, and he couldn't leave it alone. After making all these yummy paintings, he began to go down Madison Avenue with his paintings rolled up on the canvas under his arm. And he went into every gallery that he saw, and he showed them his paintings. But nobody was interested. He walked for blocks and blocks, and he went into so many galleries. By the end of the day, he was exhausted. He was nearing the end of the street, and he just leaned up against one of the doors and took a breather. Well, the door happened to be the Allen Stone Gallery. Mr. Stone was inside, and he sees this guy leaning up against his door. So he went to the window of the door, and he said, "Excuse me, can I help you?" Wayne Tebow turned around, and he said, "I don't think so, sir. I've been trying to show my paintings to other galleries, and nobody seems to like them." Well, Mr. Stone said, "Come on in, let me take a look." So Wayne brings his paintings into the gallery. He spreads them out before Mr. Stone. And after Mr. Stone looked at his artwork, he said, "I have to agree. I don't really care for them either." Wayne Tebow was disappointed, but he decided it was time to go home. He went back to California, and a few weeks later, Mr. Allen Stone called him. He said, "Excuse me, Wayne Tebow, do you happen to have any more of those paintings? You know, the ones of pies and cakes?" Wayne had some, and he said, "Yes, sir, I do, but I thought you said you didn't like them." He said, "I don't really care for them, but I just can't get them off my mind. Do you mind sending me some? And I'm going to go ahead and do an exhibit. We'll just see what happens." Oh, Wayne was so excited. He sent his paintings to Allen Stone. Allen displayed them all over his studio. And believe it or not, when people came in, they loved them. Yeah, they thought they were fabulous. You see, there was this new art movement that had just come out of this abstract expressionism, and it was called pop art. It was where artists would take just common, everyday objects and do paintings of them or prints of them, and people were going crazy over them. Believe it or not, Mr. Stone sold all of Mr. Tebow's paintings. He called Wayne Thiebaud back and he said, "You're not going to believe this, but people loved him, and I've sold all of them. Can you get me some more?" At first, Wayne thought it was a joke, but then he realized, oh my goodness, I think this is it. And he began to paint, paint, and paint, and paint. Things like hot dogs, hamburgers, sandwiches, candy sticks, puddings and parfaits, and ice cream. He loved lining his subjects up in nice, neat rows. He loved experimenting with light and how it reflected off of things. Look at these candied apples and how they shine. He loved experimenting with color. Here we have ice cream and pretty glasses. The glasses are clear, but Wayne Tebow used different colors in his vanilla ice cream and in the glasses, and it reflected turquoise and pink. Who would have thought? Tebow began to experiment with painting objects other than food, like pinwheels and shoes and ties, paint cans, and one of my favorites, gumball machines. Wayne Tebow became an overnight sensation. People loved his artwork. He decided to try painting people, portraits. He noticed that when a model would pose for him to paint, they would often start off rather animated, but as the hours wore on, they would become tired, and their animated ways would fade. They would begin to look passionless, and this is what he wanted to paint. Tebow's subjects changed yet again. He loved San Francisco and its hilly, windy streets. Of course, he had to paint that too. Unlike the donut and pie paintings that made me smile, his San Francisco paintings made me a little nervous, like being on a roller coaster. Now, some of you may like that thrill, but roller coasters scare me a little. These paintings make me feel like I need to hold on, like I might crash, like I don't know what's on the other side of the hill, or that I'll fall off the edge. They make me nervous, but I can't quit staring at them, studying them. As of today, in the year 2020, Wayne Tebow is still alive, and he's about to celebrate his 100th birthday. Now, there's so much about Wayne Tebow and his artwork that I want to tell you, so many things to look at and discover, but I just don't have time. I studied a lot of interview videos of Mr. Tebow, and I read a lot about him. It appears to me that he's extremely smart, and he's obviously extremely talented. But what amazes me the most about Mr. Tebow is his humility. He encourages young artists to follow their passion. He helps them to problem solve so that they can be better artists. And he is still amazed that people like his artwork so much. When asked what he wants people to see in his paintings, he said, "I would like for them to laugh a little. If we don't have a sense of humor, we lack a sense of perspective." Mr. Wayne Tebow has become one of my favorite artists, and I hope he's one of your favorites too. Now, I need you to tune back in to our YouTube channel because I have some super duper fun activities that we're going to do with animation, with decorating pies and cakes, and even with designing a gumball machine. So be sure you log back in and even subscribe so that you'll know when these activities come up. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Wayne Tebow, and I want to remind you to stay safe and stay healthy.